Right now, to reflect on festive season activity on South African beaches, we're joined now by President of Lifesaving South Africa, Dhaya Sewduth. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time, Dhaya. Beaches around the country have been welcoming a wave of beachgoers, but with this increased beach activity comes the need for increased awareness of safety measures. What have some of your observations been throughout the season?
Well, a very good evening to you and good evening to your viewers, and thank you for inviting Lifesaving South Africa. Yes, it's been pretty mixed observations, particularly since the start of December. We had a spate of drownings in the second half of November, but it seems to have, sort of been on not as many as we thought we would have. And there's a number of factors. I mean, if you look at today, the Durban beaches were not as crowded as we expected, largely because the northeasterly wind usually makes the surf conditions quite hectic, and it brought a deluge of blue bottles onto the beach, which is not fun for anybody. Yes.
Yeah. Would you say that there's a sense of awareness by beachgoers, like how to only swim when lifeguards are on duty, that sort of know-how when one goes to the beach and ready to just enjoy the water?
I would answer that kind of question in two parts.
Yeah.
One is, I think that there are, I would actually start off by saying, we must give huge credit to the lifeguards. They get to the beach very, very early in the morning. They sit the entire day in the hot sun, wind and rain, keeping the beachgoers and swimmers under surveillance. So they really work hard. And our reports show that both the voluntary lifeguards of Lifesaving South Africa as well as the professional lifeguards employed by respective municipalities have done an excellent job, because we have not seen too many cases of drowning during duty hours or in designated duty beaches. But what we still see is there is still an element of beachgoers who do not listen to the lifeguards, who do not listen to the authorities. And a case in point is the drowning at Fisher Beach yesterday on Christmas Day at around 3:30 p.m. when these young males were diving off the rocks, which is usually not allowed because it is quite dangerous. And the lifeguards had been blowing the whistles, quite continuously, and whilst the lifeguards have to focus on the bathers in the bathing zone, these guys were continuing, and we had this unfortunate incident of a young male who was deceased because he dove off the rocks and probably knocked himself out in amongst the submerged rocks. Yeah, that is what we are seeing, and I think also the authorities also need to be commended. Speaking from Durban, I know in this past week there have been searches of vehicles for alcohol. So I'm not too sure if that has also turned away a lot of people, because obviously if they were going to be caught with alcohol, it was either going to get confiscated or they were going to be turned away.
Yeah, and what has been absolutely key is for many to remember that alcohol and swimming don't mix, which is an important message to drive home.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, thanks to the media house like the SABC that keeps driving this message that we've been advocating, it's probably had some effect. Sadly, just to reflect, there was an incident in Kingsborough, south of Durban, in a private pool of a male who also drowned in that particular pool. And although we don't have the full report from the police inquest, there is indications that it also be a contributing factor could have been alcohol. But yes, we see this over and over. where when the lifeguards have to move the bathing area, because the ocean is a dynamic environment. It could change from morning to afternoon. It can change from hour to hour. What they create a safe zone early in the morning could not become a safe zone because of the conditions changing, rip currents establishing themselves there. They move the bathing zone either left or right, and they expect the bathers to follow the instructions to move either left or right into the new safe zone. And unfortunately also find that some beachgoers just don't want to listen.
You made mention that some of the beaches have had to be closed, as the glass that you made mention of could potentially cause some sort of harm and danger. We also know there's also been some level of discomfort around the safety and water quality at popular beaches in South Africa. What is the latest on that front?
I'll be loath to comment on all of the cases.
Yeah.
But yes, we do have that, and the reports coming through of high E. coli levels in a number of the metros. Ratepayers and residents, as well as tourists, they comment on social media about the fact that municipalities are not doing enough to ensure that you don't get sewer overflows into the ocean. Even though in KZN and Durban in particular, where I am based, every time you have a huge rainfall and you have flooding conditions, then whatever washes down the Umgeni River obviously washes into the ocean. When you have the northeasterly wind blowing, a lot of that deluge comes down towards the central beaches. There is testing happening, but as you know, the laboratory testing won't give you real-time results. The results are usually delayed by 2 or 3 days by the time the samples are taken to the lab, etc. But I think the call is for authorities to do more in ensuring sewage systems, pump stations, etc., are repaired.
Yeah.
This kind of maintenance issue is probably endemic across the country, and I can't say exactly what is the reason, but the popular call is for the authorities to fix systems that were working, to maintain them to optimum levels, so you don't have that overflow coming into the ocean as we've seen in recent years.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening. Let's perhaps leave our conversation there. Speaking there as we reflect around the beaches in the country, of course, getting some insight from those who are in the know, lifeguards and life-saving in that space.